the Business Savvy Singer. Hey there, and welcome to the Business Savvy Singer podcast. I'm Dr. Greta Pope, and I'm so glad that you're here. This podcast is dedicated to vocalists and to those who love them. We interview singers who are working professionally to get a glimpse into their lives and celebrate their personal journey to success. Join us weekly to learn how to move your career forward. Get tips and recommendations to help you realize the career of your dreams. You're listening to the Business Savvy Singer podcast, brought to you by theprivatemusicstudio.net, providing online education to build sustainable careers in music. Also, Eternal Wolf Music, producing audio for every need. And Greta Pope Entertainment, for the finest in entertainment. I'm excited today to have a Chicago broadcast legend with us. Richard Steele has been a presence in the Chicago broadcast market since 1970. He spent many years as a radio personality on some of Chicago's top urban music stations. Steele made the transition to talk radio at mid-career and spent the next 28 years at WBEZ, Chicago's NPR affiliate. During that time, he became known for his probing interviews of newsmakers and pop culture icons. Richard has also been a pledge host on WTTW PBS for more than 25 years. Currently, he hosts a weekend jazz show on WHPK, which is affiliated with the University of Chicago. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Steele.
What an intro. What an intro. What an intro. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Greta.
It's so good to see you. You look great.
Yeah, I'm hanging on for an old guy, you know what I mean? It's I really can't complain. It's okay. I had a great run in radio, and so I'm thankful.
It's great. I'm loving your room there, all the music things and the little beefeater and all the recordings, and it's just so nice.
And a poster of Miles Davis back here too.
Oh, and a poster of Miles Davis. Yeah. Wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So this is your workspace?
Yeah, I have several workspaces. This is one of them. This is a sort of a TV room, but I have all my CDs in these on these shelves in back of me. And this is a pretty big apartment. This is a co-op. It's a pretty big apartment. We bought this. It was a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom apartment. So there's a lot of room.
A lot of space. Yeah.
Don't tell my grandkids that.
Be moving in. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
so let's go back to the beginning. Where are you originally from? Are you from Chicago?
Actually, no. I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. And how did you end up in Chicago? How did you come here?
Well, it's kind of a long story, which I'll shorten. I was born in Brooklyn. My mother was a single parent at the time, and she worked in Washington, D.C., and then she came to work in Chicago, and she loved this city. And so she got married. My younger brother came along, and then my mother determined that I should be with them in Chicago. So I had to leave Brooklyn, which I didn't like at all. And when I got here, Chicago was so cold. I went, oh, this is too cold. Because, in New York, it gets cold, but doesn't stay cold long. It doesn't get nearly as cold as it does in Chicago. So I was like, damn, this is cold. You know what I mean? So, and then I had another situation too. And some of this, I think, helped me in radio later along the line. But when I came to Chicago as a kid, I think I was 8 or 9 years old. My family in New York are all West Indian. My grandmother from Barbados, and a lot of West Indians in Brooklyn. So when I came to Chicago, I had a West Indian accent combined with a New York accent, right? And so that was really strange because most of the kids here, their roots were in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And so when I got to grammar school here, I remember a teacher taking me around to other teachers and saying, "Listen to him talk."
That's funny.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of that, and then on to high school, and I sang with a doo-wop group. I did that. That was cool.
I was going to ask you about that because, I knew that you sang with a doo-wop group at Hirsch High School because my husband went to high school with you, and he told me all about it. He said, "Oh, you were great. You were singing lead with the doo-wop group." Tell us about that.
Yeah, I knew your husband well. We graduated the same year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what was that like singing with a doo-wop group, and how long did you do it, and how many people were in it?
Well, there were 5 of us, and I guess we did that for our junior and senior years. The thing with that, we started singing in the lunchroom, just for fun. Yeah. And when we looked around, we had a big crowd. I mean, wow. and a lot of girls, and so I thought that was pretty cool because normally, with a lot of girls around, it's usually football players and basketball players, but they're kind of in season. We were always in season, you know what I mean? So it's a great way to get girls. And so we continued to do that. And an interesting thing about Hirsch at that point was, I think, still maybe, I don't know, 55% white, 45% black. Mm-hmm. And so we had a principal who was very strict. And as a matter of fact, he had one guy that I know, he made him cut his mustache off because he was growing his mustache early, and the principal ordered him to have it shaved.
Wow.
That's how strict the guy was. Mm-hmm. So when we came along, all the talent shows had, ethnic touches. If you were Italian, you played accordion, yeah. and, that kind of thing on the talent shows. So when we came along, we were entirely different from anything that had happened before us. Yeah. And so we became real popular. We were like, we were like the thing. and the reason I sang lead is because the group that we did a lot of tunes by was the Spaniels, and my voice was in the lead singer's range. I wasn't like a great singer, but my voice was very specifically in that range, and so I led a lot of the songs, and that was a thrill. We did a song called "Peace of Mind," which was a big song by the Spaniels, and the girls would go woo, and I went, "Whoa, this is going on," I loved it.
That is great. So
and by the way, let me just say this: I'm probably, like very few people who put in the yearbook next to their names what they want to do or be when they grow up. People say they want to be a teacher, they want to do all of that. Unbelievably, I said, I want to be a radio announcer or disc jockey. Very few people ever do the things that they say in that book. You know that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Nobody ends up doing what they say. You just say that because you need to put something behind your name.
Right. Wow, that's amazing. So how did you segue from singing in high school to becoming a broadcaster? How did you make that dream a reality?
Well, when I was in the military after high school, I didn't go to college. And while I was in the military, I bought the tape recorder, and I used Ebony magazine, and I read the commercials in the magazine as if I was doing like radio. And I'd let the guys listen to it in the barracks, and they'd laugh at me and say, "You really think you can be on the radio? Please, give me a break." So after I got out of the military, I didn't come back to Chicago. I went back to Brooklyn, the place I was born, and I went to school for radio. And I went to several radio schools and, sent out tapes and tried to get a job, and I got rejected a lot. And then I finally got a yes. Well, first I got a yes from a station in Atlanta who said, "We love new talent. We think we like your tape, and we think we're going to hire you." This was like maybe in November. So they said, "We're going to start the station on the 1st of January is going to be our kickoff with this brand new station, a soul station." So the 1st of January came, they hadn't called me. You know how that is, right? It's a little rejection in the arts. So I kept calling them, and kept getting the runaround. And finally, I got to the guy who was doing the hiring, and he said, listen, we've decided, you've heard this before, we've decided to take a different direction. So, so I didn't get the job. I was crushed. I thought that was it, but I still kept trying and sending tapes. And a friend of mine who I went to radio school with had gotten a job in Boston on an R&B station. And he and I were in communication. Then he became program director, and he hired me. So I went to my first, before I came to Boston, my first job was in Roanoke, Virginia. Very small station, very small town.
Great.
I mean, look, Roanoke, I mean, when they talk about towns where the lights go off at, at 5 o'clock, it was damn near like that. It was a very small, but I learned the basics of radio while I was there. And I actually became program director before I left. I stayed there about a year and a half. I was the only one who knew how to type. So I type up the music list, and that made me, and later on it made me the program director, right? So I stayed there about a year and a half. And then I got a call from the guy I just mentioned in Boston, who I went to radio school with. And he said, we have an opening. We have a morning show opening. Would you want to come to Boston? I said, are you kidding me? So I went to Boston, did the morning show, stayed there about a year. And then the people that I used to work for in Roanoke, Virginia, the guy who was general manager called me and said, listen, the agency that reps us also reps the station in Chicago. And I know that's where you're from. I can tell you who to send an audition tape to if you think you might want to go back to Chicago. I said, whoa, really? So I sent the tape, and the station here in Chicago, which at the time was WGRT, they said, we like your tape. We want you to come in for an interview, and then we'll pay your expenses. So I came to Chicago on my own dime, and I got here, and there were like 4 people in an office on a Sunday, and it was the manager, station manager, general manager, owner, and some other guy. It was 4 people, and program director. So they asked me questions about my affiliations and what I had any interest in politics, because at that point, Fred Hampton had just been killed. It was 1970. I think the latter part of 69, he had been murdered by the police. And so there was a lot of political stuff going on. I recognized that. So when they asked me questions about politics, I have no interest in politics at all, that kind of thing. And so I think that pleased them. But here's the deal. The guy who owned the station said, I've gotten tapes from guys before, and I had a guy one time who sent me a tape as a sports announcer, and then we hired him on the tape, and when we put him on the air, he was terrible. He said, I was driving along in my car, and I pulled over, called the program director, and said, take him off the air right now. So I was wondering where this was going. So he said, we want to hear you do something live now. So they put me in the studio with an engineer doing the controls, and had me do some sample intros of records and read some live commercials. And had I failed that, I would not have gotten the job. And also, by the way, they were going to pay my expenses coming to Chicago if they hired me.
Yeah.
If they had not hired me, I was on my own dime. You know what I mean? So, so that's how I came back to Chicago, and I got hired, came back in WGRT 1970, and I've been here ever since. It was an amazing opportunity. That when I think back on it, Greta, I think about I was so disappointed in not getting the job in Atlanta, but had I gotten that job, I don't know where that would have led me. I know this led me to Chicago, a town I knew, and an amazing career over the years. I didn't make Doug Banks money or Tom Joyner money, but it's been pretty steady. My wife always reminds me that I was in the business a lot longer than a lot of people, and actually my income was more than somebody working an 8-hour job. I mean, it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong, and I have no complaints about that. So that's kind of how I got back here.
That's great. It's funny in life how life leads you to where you're supposed to be. You're so disappointed when this doesn't work out, that particular thing, but then something better is around the corner. And we just always have to remember that. Yeah.
We look forward to talking with Richard Steele again on part 2 of this fascinating episode of the Business Savvy Singer podcast. The Business Savvy Singer podcast is brought to you by the privatemusicstudio.net, Eternal Wolf Music, and Greta Pope Entertainment. Let us know if you know of a singer who is having great success in the music business. We'd love to share their story and their journey on this podcast. Send your emails to info@gretapope.com. We've had a great time with you today. See you next time on the Business Savvy Singer podcast. The Business Savvy Singer.